Good morning all. My name is Natalie Hallett, Sector Technologies, and I am presenting to you about a robust IT disaster recovery plan today. I wanted to introduce this topic with everything going on with COVID and the fact that businesses just need to have plans in place for every element, every disaster, everything that could cause a continuity issue within your business. So here's just a few slides I've put together to cover off sort of the main points of coping and planning and implementing anything in a disaster. So who are we and who am I to present this topic to you? We're an IT business based in Croydon South, and we've been running for 9 years now. We have a team of people who specialise in all different areas, but the company in itself specialises very heavily in security and disaster recovery, because these are the main issues that put an absolute stopper to businesses if they're not planned for and they're not ready to roll out should you need to rely on them. So there's just a quick mugshot of our team. It's sort of quite a diverse bunch, as you can see. Moving on, I just want to share with you our vision. So we do deal with companies of all different sizes. We have a large team of driven and passionate IT technicians. We want to be able to share with people in a way that they can understand their own technology. That's absolutely our mission. If this is your business and you're watching me right now, I would love it for you to understand your technical setup, because that's what's going to help you to recover and explain to your team and support your team should you need to. So education is huge for us, as well as consistency. So making sure that you know your setup and you own your setup. That's a key thing while we're talking about what we're going to go through the slides in. You need to think about your passwords, your equipment, making sure there's no middle person and that you have access and ownership to all of it all the time in case you need to implement something fast. Our goal at the moment is between now and 2022 is to assist 200 businesses to have their disaster recovery plan or their business continuity plan set up and in place, so they feel very reassured, they can access it, they can implement it, and they can show their team it at any time they need to. So what are types of disasters? I've listed a few here, and it really does depend on your definition of a disaster or what might be stopping your continuity within business. When I did a survey of our clients, the first one everyone jumps to, funnily enough, is computer viruses and ransomware. I think most people pretty much now has had either a small virus on their computer, a bit of malware, or, and I hope it's not you guys, they've had major ransomware, so an encryption ransomware where they've either had to pay out to get it unencrypted, or they've had reliable backups. So that's one we're going to cover off today for sure, just to make sure you can cover yourselves. The next one is a fire or flood. Now, these are pretty unheard of, but they do happen. And it doesn't matter if you're one person sat in an office or a multi-corp. If your site goes down due to a fire or a flood, this is a major sticking point to recover from. Where are your team going to work from? So we're going to cover a little bit about how to work remotely. Server failure. Server failures, these happen, guys. Please don't think that they don't. And it could be either a component within your main server, or it could be the hard drive itself. So the hard drives have life expectancies. They do just fail. Often they will give off warning signs. So that's fantastic. We can act on it. But what if it doesn't? What if one day you just come into work, you flick the switch on and you think everything's going to be working and it's not? How do you and your team cope with that? Accidental data deletion. This happens. It's happened to me, which is embarrassing, and I run an IT company. You know what it's like. You're putting together a proposal, it's extremely late at night, and instead of save, you click delete and you wipe your entire proposal gone. You know what? That's okay. You can recover that back if you have the right things in place, and you probably won't have to go and report to a boss that's going to be a little bit miffed that you have to redo all the work. So that's not one we're going to cover, but that is one that if you have more questions about it after, just put it in the chat box for me. I'd love to answer. The next one, hope you all like the picture, by the way, of my little devilish employee here. But you know what? this does happen. We do get employees who are not good for the business, and they can destroy your data very quickly if you don't have your security in place and your system set up so that you could recover. We've helped companies with this. Either they've had the data stolen, or an employee has been let go, and without thinking, they've let them go back to clear their desk, and whilst clearing their desk, have wiped a large amount of their company's data, fully deleted it. So we like to think it won't happen. It might. Then the last one, this one was never on our books until COVID. So the global pandemic. Well, this one's COVID. What might the next one be? How might we have to react to it? I guess everybody's suddenly being thrown into working from home. I don't know about everybody here, but did you suddenly see a shortage of, laptops in the shops? Did you see a shortage of screens and web cameras? The world was tipped upside down, and one of the main suppliers, China, obviously couldn't get it to us. So having that plan in place for future, knowing where you're going to get the equipment, how can your staff work from home? That's one of the ones we're going to cover today. I think that's a pretty big one. So let's start off with server failure. So the server failure, some of the key questions we get asked on a regular basis are, how will the team continue to work? I'm going to go through a very similar style on each of the slides to sort of list the questions that we've been asked in the past and try and give some kind of feedback and answers. Obviously, I can't address everything in a very brief webinar, but hopefully some of these things help you guys to really reflect on your business, make you ask yourself these questions with your business. And if you can't put an answer next to each one of these, a comprehensive answer you can trust, then speak to your IT team, speak to us, speak to somebody who might be able to answer for you. So how will the team continue to work from home? You know what? They can, in a remote environment that they can have ready within minutes. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are, you have an IT team supporting your data, and you have a server in your building, you can have one of two things here. If the server fails, you can continue to work by recovering from your backups onto a loan server. So an IT company can loan you a physical machine and put all of your data straight back on it immediately. So then the team can start working and you have very limited downtime. That is one I would 100% be checking out what your recovery plan is going to be. Backups. Who does their backups? Everybody thinks they're doing a backup. The key questions are, is it tested and how regularly? And is it recoverable? If you're doing a backup that the day you're going to find out if it's recoverable is the day that you've had a disaster and you need to use it, mate, you're in a big problem. And I really hope it recovers for you. Please, please, this is a key thing with any plan. Have your backups tested, have them recoverable at any time. Make sure a professional is absolutely testing the backup both automatically and manually. Know that you can go to sleep at night knowing that you can recover. That's a peace of mind I would want to have. How will we contact our clients? That's a big one. If your server fails and you are using non-cloud-based communications and storage all on a physical box, how are you going to contact your clients to say, you know what, I'm really sorry, but that shipment's not going to make it there, or I'm going to send somebody on site, but it's going to be delayed because. So have a list of your key clients stored somewhere else, be it in the cloud, in a Dropbox file or something like that, or have a simple list that can be pulled up out of your backups. Ask your IT team that my primary documents are in this one folder, I need those ASAP. Then you can work on recovering my server. So these are little tips that I really think will save you a lot of pain. Is this covered under our insurance? We get that asked a lot, actually. Guys, I'm in IT. I don't know your insurance. Number one, speak to an insurance broker. Make sure you really understand your insurance. Make sure that you have got the right insurance in place, that it covers not just your hardware, etc., but your cyber security is pretty key. You need to be able to recover your data, and if it is compromised, you can still be covered by the insurance. So what we do suggest is keep a copy of your insurance documents on your server. So scan them, save them to that file that you might need to recover from, and make sure that we can access them and get them to you ASAP. How quickly can we get a new server? Another good question. If you are requiring a simple file share server, these are quick to get a hold of, a couple of days maximum. If you're requiring big servers, the Dell, HPs, the ones you need to order in, you could be looking 5 to 10 days. Then you need configuration time. So my advice on this one is make sure you've got that lone server opportunity, because then it doesn't matter if it takes 30 days to get your new server, your team are already working again, and your downtime and your payroll that you've got to pay out no matter what is covered. So the last one on this list, do we have money for this? This is a big one. We've had clients sort of say to us, oh, our server's failed. We've had to say to them, the server's failed. And before they even say, how my team going to work, their first thing is, how am I going to afford this? And I'm like, you need to set up contingencies. Speak to your IT teams. Find out how much a new server would be for your size business, or what your cloud opportunities would be should you need to migrate at that time, and have that in a contingency fund, because the day you're going to need it, you're probably going to need the money fast. And if you have to go and sort out loans, etc., that's going to cause a problem and delay. So, some companies call it a war chest. I've heard that bantered around a lot. At least have a little bit of funds to cover you from an IT point of view should you need to replace anything. Alrighty, moving on. The prominent one for right now, the global pandemic. This one rocked the world. This one made us think as an IT team, how can we possibly help people with an unprecedented scenario, something that none of us were ready for? Well, you know what? The questions that we were asked were as simple as this. Can the team continue to work from the office? This one was very much based around the business. So what we said to people is, if you can't, then you can move people to the home environment, but there's a few things they need to know. We need to be able to log them in with what's called a VPN. Don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's a virtual private network. This is a means of you to work from home, to connect into your work server and still be able to access everything whilst keeping our social distancing from being at home. Then we were asked, well, okay, how can the team work from home? So your solution to this moving forward is have pre-checks done in advance. So I can't go back and fix what's happened already. And a lot of companies had to just throw together what they could to get people working. That's okay. But if we're hit by something like this again, or this spikes again, how about having the really positive knowledge that I've already got my pre-checks done? I already know what my team's home internet capabilities are, what equipment they do and don't have. Is it usable for work? Do they need to have computers that they can just pick up off their desk and carry home with them? So this raised another good question. And we've decided that when we start to recommend new computers to our clients from now on, we're either recommending, laptops if that's what their business requires, but we're 100% recommending very small, this kind of size, which in theory I should have probably held one, but this kind of size computer. It's a tiny box that fits in the palm of your hand. Oh, look, there we go. One of those passed me by my Gladly team, who couldn't just pick that up and put them in their handbag and take it home, or their briefcase. So think about your technology moving forward when it comes to purchasing new equipment, all part of your planning. And that covers off the what equipment should I be using. Definitely as a business, have a small stock of webcams and stuff like this, because those are pretty much gold dust right now. So we all recommend to everyone as a business to keep a small supply of keyboard and mouse, some screens and some webcams. The next big one, working from home, is the communication. Using something like Microsoft Teams or Slack. I don't know if any of you use those, but this will really help you to communicate with your team as though you're still all in the same office. You haven't got to pick up the phone or send an email. It's just an online chat channel that you can actually see when they've read it. That has played a massive part in keeping communication going. Then we looked at phone calls. This was another big sticking point. A lot of people are still on very traditional phone lines, which you can just divert to one mobile phone. So then you've got usually, and I am, usually, the poor admin reception lady is sat at home with all these phone calls coming in, and she's also trying to push them back out to the right people or take messages. So be reviewing your phone setup. There's some really cost-effective things out there nowadays that you can use VoIP technology, voice over internet. So this would be great if you want to have that review and then you can see what opportunities you could do. You can also then set up within the VoIP technology something called a smartphone or a soft phone. Soft phones you can put onto your mobile phone, and basically it's just like an app, and your team can work from home, and they're still using the Works technology, the Works phone system. They can transfer between soft phones and not have to have a physical phone at all with them. So great technology. Again, something to look into pre anything like this happening again. Emails were the last one that we found come up in consideration of the global pandemic. A lot of people either had to lay staff off, that was, you know, hard to watch, but we also had to look at the back end of that. You're laying staff off, or they're not going to be working for you during this time. Who's monitoring their emails? How easy is it to give you access to this? Who holds the passwords? So it was really important to us to make sure that all of our clients had that access. And usually the managers wanted access to everybody's emails, so in case they suddenly fell sick, etc. So it was handling not just the technology and the passwords and the ability, but also looking at the processes, getting HR involved. Because if you suddenly want to start sharing people's email accounts, you kind of have to make sure that you're not sharing personal stuff, because people do send emails from the work stuff and it's personal. So make sure you've got those bases covered. Alrighty, so moving on, and this was the one I said was the key one that everyone came up with, which was funny. Computer viruses and ransomware. You know what, the hackers and people like that, they are smart people. If they put their skills to good use, they could do great things. Just what they do with ransomware is technology beyond many people's comprehension. So how can we, one of the questions was, how do we protect against these attacks? Well, check all your computers and servers have an industry grade antivirus. So when we look at antiviruses, we look at two things. You have a blacklist and you have a whitelist. A blacklist is where you get a whole list of, you know, let's choose a blacklist company. So Kaspersky, they've got to find out about a virus, update their list with the virus so that it can protect against it, push that back out to their endpoints, your computers if you're running Kaspersky, and then your computer's got to actually have that update run as well. That's time. That's 2, 3, 4 days, weeks if they don't pick up and get that push out as quick as possible. So that is more reactive, I suppose is the word. They heard about it, now we're dealing with it. The proactive way of an antivirus, which if everybody grasps this, I'm going to be so happy with this webinar, is the whitelisting approach. So the whitelist means I'm going to say no to everything apart from what's already been approved. So there are a few antiviruses that do that, which actually are extremely cost effective, and they stop everything unless you give it permission to run. So that's a very different approach. You haven't got that time delay to get the update to get your computer safe. So I would be suggesting to all of our clients, you need to start reviewing what you're using as an antivirus. Then we got, how do we stop staff infecting our systems? Well, this was an interesting one. Everyone does blame their team and who did it, who let the virus in. In fact, we've been paid many hours to try and track down by a company, which member of staff was it, who let that virus in? And it's like, instead of pointing fingers and pushing blame, that's easy to do. How about educating your team? How about training them that, you know, what is potential malware? What is a virus? What things should I be looking out for? There are absolutely training programs they can do, which are going to educate and train them around this. Then if they let it in, well, then that's up to you as a company owner what you do about it. But let's not shoot someone if they've never had training and they're not a tech and they don't understand it. So asking your IT team about that. Do we have to pay a ransom if we get it? Mixed feedback here. Does anyone want to pay a ransom? No, absolutely not. Why do they deserve to get that when they did something malicious to you? But that's where that stops, because this is a problem. What if you don't have recoverable backups in place? What if they literally have encrypted all your company's data and you either shut the door or you pay the ransom? This is a choice only the business owner can make. So my suggestion is make sure you have great, tested, regular, off-site recoverable backups. Now, as you can see from the slide, I've put off-site in bold letters. This is really important. Some of the, everyone felt very reassured that they had backups. They were on-site backups. They were tested backups. Up until CryptoLocker, those would have been fine. CryptoLocker ransomware changed the game. That one literally went through to the on-site backups. And we were one of the first people to get a client come through to us to say, well, that's funny, you know, I've got this this virus. We looked at it and said, oh yeah, it's an encryption one. That's fine. We'll go to your backups. And they only opted as the client to have on-site backups at the time. And we accessed them and went, oh, this is a game changer. Your on-site backups are totally encrypted. Now, the fortunate and very brief story, the fortunate thing for this particular client, who we've known for 7 years, they chose not to do off-site backups. It's a personal choice. Very luckily, 2 months prior, we did an entire server upgrade. So as part of that, we took a backup and we had it here. So first of all, it's doom and gloom and that shock of, you can't recover from this. Or you've lost all your data, it's totally encrypted. You can pay a ransom and hope. Then it came to us that, hang on, we've done a server upgrade recently. So actually they only lost 2 months of data. Now for their business, that's not critical. For a lot of businesses, that would be massive. So make sure it's kept off-site, different location, and again, it's tested. And there are so many automated ways to do that, that I would strongly suggest you investigate this option. The next question on the slide, how many of you have asked yourself this? Can we block getting viruses 100%? Big question. The simple answer is yes, there is a way. There is a particular software that we know of. It's a government grade software, Department of Defense use it, etc. And we work with them in integrating it. Lots of the big banks do as well, and Treasury. So it is really important that you have a look at this solution. And this one means that you are throwing a security net over your entire site. All your computers and your servers run this very high level antivirus kind of software. And that just means nothing can penetrate the net because it won't let the virus run. It won't allow the executable to run. It's a fantastic software. And they've now actually changed it from a very high license cost into a monthly MSP model. So good one to talk to your IT teams about. If they haven't heard of DriveLock, then by all means come through to us and we will give you all the information you need. Okay, the last one in this one is, how will we know we have ransomware? Well, typical indicators are you try and open a folder and it's going to tell you don't have access. But don't worry, if you have got ransomware, the first thing they want to do is tell you about it because they want you to pay the ransom. So you will get messages. It will come up like in the top right of this slide, you know, your files are encrypted, you've got to pay us. So stop if you see that, take a breath, contact your IT. See what your options are immediately. And most importantly is making sure that you know that that backup is working in the first place. So that's the last one I want to touch base on in regard to the list of possible disasters or continuity issues. As I said, there are a lot more, but I was very conscious about how much time to spend going through them all. But I do want to have a look at what to include in a recovery plan. So here's the simplest. This is not everything. Some recovery plans are 30 to 50 pages long. So it is a detailed process depending on the size of the business. For smaller businesses, 5 people or less, you can normally do a 4 or 5 page plan and it will work well. Having contact details for all your team members, making sure you've got personal mobile numbers. That's coming back more to the flood or the fire. If you can't get your team into the building in the morning because you get there and something's happened, then make sure you can contact your team, tell them to stay away, tell them to be at home and to wait for your next instruction. Especially if you've got fire crews on site and stuff, you don't want your team getting mixed up in that and the issues and danger around that. Have a list of all of your credentials. Now this is your passwords. How many people here could put their hands up and say, I've got every login, every password to my server, to my computers, to my emails, and I could absolutely log in and use them? If you can't say that, or your next line would be, no, I don't, but my IT team does. One of the other ones that we didn't cover off on are, it's your equipment. What if your IT team are the ones holding you to ransom? What if your IT teams hold you to ransom. We have actually helped a client who had that issue. They wanted to change IT team, and it nearly went to the magistrates court because their current, or now old, IT team held them to ransom for their own passwords to log into their own physical equipment. It's disgusting, I hear you say, but it happens. So make sure you have got up-to-date passwords, your admin level passwords as the owner of the business. Okay, have contact details for your important regular clients. We covered that off. Make sure you have it in a folder that you can access easily when it's recovered. Have individual reports on each team member. So this comes back to the working from home. Actually have those reports carried out prior to any disasters happening. Find out how they could work from home, because the disaster could just be something as simple as, Johnny fell off of his motorbike and needs to work from home for a few weeks. Well, instead of the delay and everything and the having to go into his own home, if you've already got these, you just pull his out of the file and you know how he's going to be able to do that. Now, I would be speaking to HR, because I do know, and I would recommend to everyone to include, if you're going to carry out the working from home thing, make sure you fill in or get the employees to fill in the working from home safety policy. You may as well have that in your file so you know that's been filled in. And again, if you don't have an HR person, please contact us. I can recommend you to an absolutely fantastic company, and she will go through that with you and make sure you've got access to that. Alrighty, having copies of your insurance documents, any proof of identity, ownership of the company, any of those documents, make sure you've got access to those in case you need to access account numbers and stuff and be able to recover from and access your stuff. Have contact details of your suppliers. This is quite a big one depending on your industry, especially in manufacturing and building industries, especially if you've had a building issue. You need to be able to say to them, please hold that delivery. We're not going to be able to receive it today, should you have had a fire or flood, for example. So having those to hand, very wise. Report on what is being backed up. Ask your IT company, what are you backing up? Is it called a bare metal backup, which basically means we're backing up everything, the software, the data, you literally flick a switch and you can recover from that? Or are you just doing a data backup, which means I'm going to have a delay because you're going to have to reinstall and set up all new equipment? This is quite key to find out, and you have the right, if you're paying a company to do your backups, ask them for that report. Ask them, how often is it being done, the backup? How often is it being tested? Backups can be run every 15 minutes, daily, weekly, monthly. It depends on what you want. But absolute key, how often is it being tested? And is it off-site? Remember that key wording, off-site backups. A typical indicator would be that you can't access your data. So we're looking at, if you can't access that data, how quickly can you put in those plans? So make sure each of those individual disasters, you have those plans in a folder, and you can pull out the plan and go, okay, well, we got ransomware. These are the steps. I can circulate it to my team. Or our servers failed. Well, no problem. These are the steps. I'll circulate it to my team. Make sure you've got those available. And have that's the individual scenario. Sorry, that's the last one. So have that individual scenario set up and make sure you feel confident that you can access it at all times. So I guess for me, the pre-planning and why it's robust is have it in place first. Make sure you understand it. Make sure your managers understand it. I wouldn't recommend going and baffling all of your team with it, but make sure you have it on a PDF and it's one click, you can send it out to everybody. Do some training around it with them. Make sure they understand. We all do fire evacuation training from our big office buildings. What about some training around, what are we going to do if, especially with the global pandemic, it would put people's minds at rest that you've already planned for this. So should it happen, the company is not going to fall apart. We have a plan. We know how we're going to recover, and you guys are involved as our team to help us recover. You have a role to play. So I find that very exciting, as you can tell. It's rather geeky, but I would absolutely recommend that everybody has a look. So the final thing I wanted to go through today is, who do we help? We are an IT company, as I said, we've been doing this for years. We help from one-man bands to 60 employees, up to and including Department of Treasury and Department of Defense. We cover a lot of variations. Some are white collar, some are manufacturers, some are tradies. it literally doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you understand that your technology can assist you to do it better and can assist you to recover if you need to. So businesses who need our expertise, we want to deal with people that want to work with us. Businesses who want to get on top of their IT and have a continuity or a recovery plan in place, we want to work with them, we want to help them, we want to let them sleep at night and know that that's okay. And people who want us to become part of their team, that's absolutely huge to us. We have been invited over to clients near us for lunch dates with their team, 60 of them, you know, the 7 or 8 of us, and we've become part of the team to the point where if something happens, we kind of know already how they run and how they tick. We know how to do half fit for them. And then business owners who want to be innovative, that's the last one. Do you want to be innovative? Do you want to have processes in place and productivity go through the roof because you're leveraging some new technology you didn't know about? So guys, thanks for listening. That's my talk for today. If you do have questions, I know I'm happy to answer those. And if you know of anybody who just can't answer some of the questions that we've raised today, my phone is always ringing and they can give me a call and I'll answer for them. So thanks very much for listening.